In this Blender tutorial, I'll show you how to use Blender's real-time compositor so that you can see your compositing effects in real time in the 3D viewport. So here I am in my Blender file with the cute pumpkin scene, and what I'm going to do is click over here to go to the compositing layout. And then make sure you click on the Use Nodes button to use the compositing nodes. Now I actually want to be able to preview the 3D viewport so I can preview the compositor in the real time. So what I'm going to do is click here in the corner when the crosshair appears, and I can click and drag out to split the window. But I'm now going to click right here to change this editor type, and I'm going to change it to the 3D viewport. Then you can just zoom into your object, and I'm going to go into the camera view by hitting the 0 on the numpad, and I'm going to go up into the rendered viewport mode. So hold down the Z button and go into the rendered view. That is very important that you're in the rendered view or the material preview to make sure you're seeing the real-time compositor. So now let's start to set up some compositing. So the first thing that I want to add is just like a glare to add a glow to those candles. So let's go to the add menu here, and I'm going to search for the glare node, and we can put the glare node between the render layers and the composite. So the render layers is what it's actually going to see when it's rendered. Then we can add nodes in between here, like the glare node and other nodes. And then finally, that all needs to be going into the composite node to actually do the compositing. Now you can see that we added the glare, but it didn't actually change anything here in the 3D viewport. That's because you need to scroll right over here. So move your mouse up here to the bar and scroll over, and you want to click on this drop down arrow right here. And you can see that there is a compositor, and right now on default it is set to disabled, but you can change it to camera or always. So I like to change it to always, and that way even if I move around here in the 3D viewport, you can see the compositing node showing up, so we can see that glare there. If I hit the M key to mute the glare node, you can see here it is with before and after. Or if you just want to be able to see it in the camera, you can choose camera, and that way there it is in the camera, but it's not there in the 3D view. And then if you are in the material preview instead, you can do the same exact thing. So here I am in the material preview. I'm going to click on the drop down, and you can choose disabled, camera, or always. I'll just leave it to always, and you can see now there's that cool glare there on the candles. So now we can add lots of cool compositing effects to really make this image look quite cool, and most of the nodes in the compositor should work in the real-time compositor. So now I can change the settings of the glare. So for example, I could change the threshold here, and you can see that's going to add more glare or less glare. I could also change the streaks here, so I could turn this up or down. And there's also this angle offset, and then there's also a fade here. I'm also going to duplicate the glare and then drop it here, and I'll change this glare type to bloom instead. And then I can just turn the threshold down to make it less strong, so I'll just turn that way down, and also maybe turn the threshold down of this glare here. I could also do color correction, so I could go to the add menu and I could search for like the RGB curves. I'll put this here after the glares, and then I can drag these values up into this corner or this corner to kind of add more color or less color. So I can make it brighter, maybe make it a bit more sharp and contrasty. I could also click here on the R for red, and I could add more red or less red. I could also search for like a hue saturation value, and I could change the hue of the image, also the saturation of the colors, and also the value to make it brighter or darker. Now there is also a denoise in Blender's compositor, so if I just search for the denoise node and drop this here, the denoise actually gets pretty laggy in the viewport. You can see as I'm moving this around, it's trying to denoise it in the real-time compositor, so it gets really laggy. So I'd recommend not using this in the viewport compositor. So what I'd recommend doing if you want to denoise the image in the viewport is you can open up the side panel here and go to the render properties, and then you can go to the sampling here, and in the viewport samples you can set the samples here. So I just have it set to 10, and then I also have the denoise here. So here's the denoise turned off, but if I turn the denoise on in the viewport, you can see it smooths out the image and makes it look a lot nicer. There's also a bunch of other cool effects you could add. So for example, I could add like the lens distortion, drop this here, and I could turn up this dispersion here, so you can see that's happening in the real time. The lens distortion works really well for kind of like sci-fi scenes or space scenes. Not really good for this scene here, but it is a cool effect you can add to certain scenes. And then if you want to add a vignette, which is kind of that darker area around the corner like I did for my final scene, you can go to the search, you can search for the box mask, and first let's just plug the box mask into the compositor so I can preview it, and we can make it bigger. So now I can just drag the width and make that bigger, and also drag the height and make that bigger. So now we have a white box with a little black background. So now I can go to the add menu and I can search for the blur. Let's put the blur right here, and I can drag the X and Y blur to kind of blur that, so that I can see it's white here in the center and then it's black here in the corners. So now to mix this vignette into the image, I can search for the alpha over node, and I can drop the alpha over node right here. And we want the blur image to be going into the factor, and then we can take the glare or the original image here, and we can put that into the bottom one. So now here on the top one here, this can be the color. So I can maybe make this like a blue color and make it kind of dark. Now you can see that the background is also transparent. So what I'd want to do before this is add another alpha over. So I'll just duplicate the alpha over and I can just drop it here, and I can put this glare image into the bottom one, and then the top one here can be the background color. So I could maybe make this like a red color and just make it a little bit darker, something like that. So now the alpha over can go into the bottom image, and then the top image color here, this can be the vignette color. So you could have it like a blue color, or maybe like a red color, or my favorite is just making it like a black color. So now you can see there's this kind of dark area around the image. So that is how you can use Blender's real-time compositor to see your compositing effects in the viewport in real time. So I hope you found this video helpful, and thank you for watching. And if you'd like to watch my full artwork breakdown video of how I created this cute fall pumpkin scene, you can find the link to that in the description. So I hope you found this helpful, and thank you for watching.